join me in the prayer for illumination. Holy One, our souls wait for you. In your words we find hope. Open our hearts to embrace your love. Open our minds to receive your teaching. Open our hands to accept the task you set before us, to live together as your children and love each other as you love us. Amen. A reading from the book of Job. Hear the word of the Lord. Then Job answered, "Today also my complaint is bitter. His hand is heavy despite my groaning. Oh, that I knew where I might find him, that I might come even to his dwelling. I would lay my case before him and fill my mouth with arguments. I would learn what he would answer me and understand what he would say to me. Would he contend with me in the greatness of his power? No, but he would give me heed. There an upright person could reason with him, and I should be acquitted forever by my judge. If I go forward, he is not there, or backward, I cannot perceive him. On the left he hides, and I cannot behold him. I turn to the right, but I cannot see him. God has made my heart faint. The Almighty has terrified me. If only I could vanish in darkness, and thick darkness would cover my face." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
morning comes to us from the 22nd Psalm. Listen to what the Spirit is saying to the family of faith this day. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from helping me, from the words of my groaning? Oh my God, I cry by day, but you do not answer, and by night, but find no rest. Yet you are holy, enthroned on the praises of Israel. In you our ancestors trusted. They trusted, and you delivered them. To you they cried, and were saved. In you they trusted, and were not put to shame. But I am a worm, and not human, scorned by others and despised by the people. All who see me mock at me. They make mouths at me. They shake their heads. Commit your cause to the Lord. Let him deliver. Let him rescue the one in whom he delights. Yet it was you who took me from the womb. You kept me safe on my mother's breast. On you I was cast from my birth, and since my mother bore me, you have been my God. Do not be far from me, for trouble is near, and there is no one to help. But you, O Lord, do not be far away. O my help, come quickly to my aid. Deliver my soul from the sword, my life from the power of the dog. Save me from the mouth of the lion, from the horns of the wild oxen. You have rescued me. I will tell of your name to my brothers and sisters. In the midst of the congregation, I will praise you. You who fear the Lord, praise him. All you offspring of Jacob, glorify him. Stand in awe of him, all you offspring of Israel. For he did not despise or abhor the affliction of the afflicted. He did not hide his face from me, but heard when I cried to him. From you comes my praise in the great congregation. My vows I will pay before those who fear him. This is the word of the Lord. My God, why have you forsaken me? Who in their right mind would choose to preach a sermon on this psalm? But I am a worm and not human, scorned by others and despised by the people. I mean, seriously. Deliver my soul from the sword, my life from the power of the dog. I'm not even totally sure what the power of the dog means, but it doesn't sound good. We're probably not talking about a Cocker Spaniel or a poodle or even a cockadoodle. No, I'm picturing more like some really nasty Rottweilers or Dobermans or that three-headed one from Greek mythology, Cerberus. And the passage from Job that Phyllis read, ugh, what kind of person does that to another human being? I am so sorry, Phyllis. God has made my heart faint. The Almighty has terrified me. If only I could vanish in darkness and thick darkness would cover my face. I sure hope you all have something lighthearted and fun to do with the rest of your days, because buckle up, this is not going to be all rainbows and unicorns. After Katie's sermon last Sunday about the mock radio hour and storytelling, telling our life stories, of finding our stories in God's larger story and finding God's story in our stories, I thought I would try going that route this morning, so bear with me. I was living with a group of 4 friends from high school in a house that either must have just barely been above code or the landlord had a special relationship with the city inspector. It was right next to the on-ramp from University Avenue to southbound 35W. I say was, but it is still there, hopefully with updated electrical and plumbing. Most of us, I would assume, have driven right by it without giving it much attention. But whenever I drive by it, I can't help but be filled with some bittersweet memories. Because along with it being where I lived during some of my less than proudest moments, it is also where I was living when I met Lisa. And when I look back at my life then, how I was living, the things I was doing, as well as the things I was not doing, it is nothing short of miraculous that we will be celebrating 30 years of marriage together next January. While I was living there, I was going to school at the University of Minnesota and working for an industrial publishing company as a proofreader over in North Minneapolis off West River Road. I say going to school, but it was more like I was enrolled at the university and occasionally going to classes. The majority of my paychecks went to pay for unhealthy and destructive vices, habits, that left me with very little money for anything else, including food and my portion of the rent. I most often ate one meal a day, and that meal was a combination of Hormel chili and Dinty Moore beef stew. You make that sound, but it wasn't all that bad. In fact, it is an actual recipe on the label of the chili. When I wasn't working or avoiding classes, I was hiding out in my basement bedroom, a very cool bedroom with lots of weird angles and exposed pipes that I often hit my head on. It was all very bohemian and intentionally so, with a mattress on the floor, a desk and bookshelves covered with lots and lots of books, mostly poetry and existential philosophy, none of which were for any of the classes I was supposed to be attending. Classic movie posters on the wall and an old stereo with a constant rotation of Van Morrison albums playing in the background. Like I said, very cool. Sort of. One afternoon when I was the only one home and laying around in my bedroom, I heard the landlord at the back door, knocking with a definite sense of purpose. I was 2 months behind in my rent and didn't know what to do. I had no money, and my next paycheck was still a few days away. Even then, it wouldn't be enough to cover both months. I turned off the stereo, hoping he hadn't already heard it and became as still and quiet as possible. I assumed that he would think no one was home and go away. But then I heard the key in the lock and the door open. I panicked. I couldn't run, he would see me. And so I looked around my bedroom and saw a huge pile of dirty clothes in the corner. If I couldn't buy food, I certainly didn't have money for laundry. I quickly and stealthily climbed into the pile and began to cover myself up. Seconds later, he was in my doorway. He looked around and somehow didn't see me. He walked away and checked out the other rooms. I listened for any sound that indicated he had left. But he must have decided to stick around and sit in our common living area for a while. It seemed like an hour that I hid under those dirty clothes, but it was probably less. Finally, I heard the back door shut and his car drive away. I climbed out. This was one of the lowest moments of my life. My God, why have you forsaken me? As I crawled out from underneath my laundry, I began to cry and wonder to myself, how had I come to this place, this very low place in my life? Of course, none of this was God's doing or not doing, God's failure to love and care for me. God had not forsaken me. If anything, I had forsaken God. How did I get here? When did I begin this journey of growing farther and farther away from God? I had been self-medicating for years, self-medicating a pain, a suffering that I wouldn't be able to recognize or acknowledge for many more years, a bit of a breakdown, and some very helpful therapists. I have a lot of very good, beautiful, happy childhood memories. I grew up in a beautiful home surrounded by the love of two wonderful parents. But what they never knew, and entirely because I never told them, was that there were also parts of my childhood that were not good, or happy, or loving. And none of these parts had anything at all to do with any member of my family or extended family. But they happened, and harmfully affected my life, my ability to trust people, my need to isolate and keep secrets, needs for my survival as a child, but unhealthy as an adult, as well as my identity as a man and as a uniquely beloved child of God. I became very good at hiding, like professionally good, and in more profoundly emotional and spiritual ways than just under a pile of clothes. My God, why have you forsaken me? Of course, none of this was God's doing or not doing. God's failure to love and care for me. God had not forsaken me. Again, if anything, I had forsaken God. But the pain was real, even if I couldn't name it, even if I denied its source. And if God wouldn't take that pain away, then I had to find some way to do it myself. And so I did. And so I found myself having crawled out from underneath my own dirty laundry, crying and wondering how I could continue to live with myself like this. God has always been a very strong reality in my life, as real as anything I could see or touch. Yet it was you who took me from the womb. You kept me safe on my mother's breast. On you I was cast from my birth, and since my mother bore me, you have been my God. But since my God, my all-powerful, all-loving God, didn't protect me, didn't remove my suffering, didn't save me, I wondered what was wrong with me. Maybe God didn't love me. Maybe the things I was already so ashamed of somehow also put me beyond God's divine embrace, God's sheltering wings. I never doubted God's existence. That would have been easier, less painful, than to think God did exist and didn't see me as valuable enough to help, to heal me. I cried out to God. I screamed at God. I was hopeless. I was angry. I was discouraged and depressed. A block and a half from the house where I hid in the basement was a church. Andrew Riverside Presbyterian Church. The very next Sunday morning after the dirty laundry incident, I found my way over there, just as I had on previous Sundays and would again on future Sunday mornings. I snuck in after the worship service had started, and I snuck out before it had ended, but I was there. I didn't sing the hymns or participate in the liturgy. I'm not sure if I even stood up and sat down with the rest of the congregation, but I was there. I needed to be there. This is where I had grown up believing one could find God, the church, when you couldn't find God anywhere else. If God wouldn't come to me, I would go to God. Of course, once there, I couldn't bring myself to cry out, to yell out, to get angry. Instead, I just sat there and listened. When it comes to an all-powerful God, we sometimes underestimate the power and strength it takes to sit in silence with someone who is suffering without trying to fix it, even when, especially when you can, when God can. God hadn't forsaken me even when I had forsaken God. God loved me and was waiting for me every time I arrived home. Every time I ran away, God was there to welcome me home. I am not forsaken, and neither are any of you. I will tell of your name to my brothers and sisters in the midst of the congregation. I will praise you, God. So you who fear the Lord, Praise him, all you offspring of Jacob. Glorify him. Stand in awe of him, all you offspring of Israel. For he did not despise or abhor the affliction of the afflicted. He did not hide his face from me, but heard when I cried to him. And so, my brothers and sisters, in the midst of this congregation, I will praise my God. Praise my God for having never forsaken me. From before I was in my mother's womb and the day of my birth, during the most painful parts of my life, some of them my own doing and some of them at the hand of another. Through all my days, the good and the bad, the joyful and the sorrowful, the easy and the challenging, God has been with me. And God is with you. God is with us. God suffers with you. God cries with you. God sits in silence with you. God loves you with a love from which there is nothing, absolutely nothing, not even ourselves, that can separate you, can separate us. You are never forsaken. We are never forsaken. Praise God. From you comes my praise in this great congregation. My vows I will pay before those who fear him. Praise God. And to God alone be all the glory. Amen.